Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to your favorite cooking channel, Cooking with Lava. Today, we continue with our baking series, and we're going to look at some chips, baked chips. Now, if you want to cut down your oils from frying and want to live more healthier, it's always better to bake than to fry. So, we're going to do this simple baked chips recipe, and all we need for a pound of chips is just a pound of flour and then a third part of margarine. If you don't have a measuring scale and you want to use a bowl, just use a bowl of flour. Use a third part, whichever one you want to three. Add about I am margarine. Now, the more margarine it is in, the more shorter it is, so the more crisp it becomes. So when you eat, it easily breaks, like it's soft enough. All those ones. But the margarine is less, it's going to be not so easy to break in all those ones. Yes, so the margarine makes it richer and shorter. Yes, so sometimes you just want to get your chips a bit shorter. And then for the spicing, you need some nutmeg. You can even equally use cinnamon and a bit of salt. Yes, and then some turmeric powder. So basic turmeric powders always have turmeric with black pepper, sometimes with white pepper in or not. Then sometimes it has the ginger powder and the cumin. So the essential thing about spicing your chips, apart from your taste buds, but then the turmeric in there always gives it a bit more of a nicer color. The black pepper always goes with turmeric, and sometimes white pepper also does a trick when it comes to chips. Then you can add on any local spice of your choice or that you like. So that's about spicing up your chips. So all you do first is to rub in your flour and your margarine. So you want to make sure that your flour and margarine are well mixed together. Now, because I was using just a small quantity, which is a pound of chips, I just used one hand. But then if you're using two hands, if it's quite a number, you just pick and then you rub it in your palm. That's how I call it. Yes, rubbing. So I'm just going to mix up the flour and the margarine for everything to come together. And you need to do this so beautifully and so well before you add in your local spices and your salt, the other dried ingredient. Else, also baby up wamba. You don't want to get those lumps at different parts of your pastry. You want it to come out fine. So once the mixing goes in well, you use water. Now, water is very risky when it comes to this. If you use too much water, potentially what you're going to do is they're going to get very tough kind of should I say very tough kind of chips. And you want chips which is more flexible and soft and crunchy and that sort of thing. So you need to check your water intake. So if you're using the pound of flour, usually what I realized was less than half a cup or half a cup of water does the trick. And with water, there are two things. You can use cold water, which would bind the fats very early for you so you can roll it out properly very early. Or what you can also do is to use warm water, wrap your dough up a bit and then put it in the fridge for it to bind together and then rest as well. So for me, what I've learned is it's easier when you use the cold water than to use the warm water before it goes back. And like I was saying, you don't need too much water in this. So you need little water at a time. Then use it to be binding it. But be careful not to knead your chips. If you knead your chips, it will come out very night and day because when you knead, you won't say eso. Yes, and you also don't understand into what I was saying was if you knead your chips, it's potentially going to become more elastic. So it's going to have a different feel unless you like your chips like that. But I see around here, most people like very soft and those kind of chips that melt in your mouth, that sort of effect. Yes, so this is basically about your chips recipe. Very, very, very simple. Very simple. Now, it's not really necessary you add baking powder in here. Yes, because you don't really need it to rise that much. So, like I was saying, because I use cold water, and this is a small quantity, I just, was able to bind it together when I was done. And then what you just do is to put it in your bowl, let it rest for about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the batch you're doing. So if it's a very big batch, maybe 30 minutes is perfect. But if you don't have time or it's a small batch, 15 minutes is okay. Just for the dough to relax and for all the pores in there to be activated and the yeast and things to be well spread. So once that is done, you can just roll out your pastry crust. So you just roll out your chips filling and you need to make sure that every part is evenly distributed. You don't want some part to be very thick, especially the middle part, and then the outer part to be very, very thin. So what we tend to do around here is that we cut the sides, put it in the middle, then you roll it back. So you realize that you're getting the shape you need to help cut your chips, but then the edges are not going to waste. And then you roll it beautifully. So you see, there's a simple thing you could do, and it doesn't take time. So you can just do this, preserve it, and when the kids are going to school, they can enjoy it. When you're in the house and your mouth is doing medi, you can just snack on it. So this is one simple chip recipe you can do for any occasion, any event. Like as I was saying, just make sure that you're rolling this perfectly. Make sure that there's a thickness you'd want. If it's too thick, your chips is going to be very, very heavy. Yes, so what we want to do is to do some strips. So you cut them this longitude now. So once you cut, yes, I have my serving tray here. I have my chips here, my scissors here, and all I'm going to do is to cut it up. So I'm just going to cut smaller strips. Now you just need to be careful when you're cutting your strips. You don't want to have some too big, some too small. That means that one is cooking, some will get cooked early than some. You know that thing. And then when you're presenting it, it's not going to look too presentable. So as much as possible, you need to be careful with your sizes. If you're going big, go big. If you're going small, go small. You can slant it up as you're cutting to get that, long effect. You know that thing. You could use your designer scissors with a zigzag mark just to give it something beautiful. And when you're done, you just throw it into your oven. So within 10 to 15 minutes, your chips should be done. So you just preheat your oven at 270, reduce it to 180, and then every 5 minutes you just go and rotate it just for it to get the perfect heat in there. So you rotate it like 3 times. That should be like 50 minutes, and you're done at your 180 degrees Celsius. But then sometimes when the weather is too hot and all those ones, it affects your oven. So if the temperature is hot, you can just be checking as you do and just be shaking, and then check the base of your chips to make sure that it's well browned. And you just take it out when it's done, let it cool, and it's going to firm up and turn that crispy thing you'd want to experience. So that's about your chips recipe, your baked chips recipe. Very easy peasy. So I see you in the next food video. Lots of love from my team and I. Mwah.